Good morning. It's good to be together. And we're going to do some real conversation today. I could feel it.
Mhm. 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 Rib D's in the house. Okay, Ayana. Welcome in for those that are following us along. Ayana, what are we here to do today?
We are taking a long glimpse at our second insight on leadership. This is our behind the scenes conversation. Really excited for it. And the second insight is all about leadership as a human act. It's human work that we need to do together. So
Mhm.
lots to unpack the moment you start talking about humans. You're the land of complexity. So we get to talk about aspects of human capacities and attention and intelligences today. Looking forward to it.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, great. Let's go there.
Okay.
When we think about the insight, leadership is human work.
Mhm.
Um, what do we mean by that, Ayana? And why is it important in this moment?
I think it starts maybe with some helpful definitions, like where do we ground ourselves in this space? Part of my background always appreciates the wordsmithing and where words come from as part of how we get to the moment that we are at today. Um, I recall that the word leadership itself has roots about leading is to guide, to bring forth. And the suffix of ship has to do with like being in a state of. So leadership at one definition space, where the word that we use is about the state of guiding others and guiding with others, which is lovely. And the
Mhm.
moment we're talking about with others, I think we're in this social construct of being with others is part of what it is to be human. We are not individual beings. We're actually like pack animals. We're social animals. And so leading, guiding, being in the state of guiding with others is about essentially into the pack, living into the pack, right? Our social construct. So I think it starts there, the humility that we don't lead by ourselves, and it happens in community, it happens in relationship, human to human, one to one, and one to many in a thoughtful way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So already you're in deep complexity, right?
Mhm.
If being on your own personal journey is in many
Hard
ways like
enough.
hard enough, and in many ways like your first work in
Mhm.
coming to know yourself.
Mhm.
The moment you amplify that with multiple humans, the complexity exponentially, increases.
Mhm. Mhm. Why do we think it's really important now, in this moment, to remind people to call attention and action to leadership being human work?
Mhm. Yeah. My heart wants to respond to that first,
Mm,
but before my head,
sure.
you know, um, to be human, to be human, I don't think any of our ancestors would have, answered that, whether you're a Greek philosopher and a Stoic, or you're a theologian, or you're a parent, would have answered that like to be human is to produce more and create profit and think of each other as commodities. We probably would have started with to be human is to love another, is to nurture life, is to feed one another and break bread together, and to do that with
Mhm.
a sense of delight and joy and care. So yeah, from a heart space, I think it's important now because the observation is that we're in a state of imbalance, incomprehensible imbalance, and our prioritization on what matters first, and the gift of this strange gift, of life. We're struggling with prioritizing, I think, what
Mhm.
is at the core and most essential, that makes us spiritual beings having a human experience, that makes us unique from other parts of creation and other animals in creation. um, yeah, I think it's really important because it's a time of reclaiming that which is most essential. compassion, love, guiding others for the common good,
Mhm.
and doing that with others, and having the kinds of conversations that remind our most uh, deepest selves about why we're here and the gift of being here in a thoughtful
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
We get to do, Megan, we get to do amazing work with leaders every day.
Mhm.
And I mean, there are stories about the work that we do in optimizing process and help people get strategic clarity and supporting their high performance teams. And you and I know that to get to that work, we have to spend time with our human leaders at
Mhm.
the essential nature of who they are.
Mhm.
I mean, raw talk or maybe like pop psychology talk would say we have to like talk to their heart and connect with their heart as much as we do with their head.
Mhm.
And all of that has to happen in concert for them to do anything truly active with their hands and their
Mhm.
being in the world.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think the leadership conversation with a human emphasis matters because all three of those H's, the heart, the head, and the hands, are required now for a kind of rebalancing or recalibration in
Mhm.
the state of the world that we're in. Yeah. What do you think? What do you see? How would you answer that question?
Mhm. Why is it important?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm really thinking about a couple lenses here. The work we're doing and continue to do with clients, as well as lifting out from that just the trends we're seeing and the ways in which this world is evolving in this moment. Um, yes, in the work, no doubt, strategy cycles are both long and short. You need to be able to be managing in the here and now with a sense of how that's impacting a broader ambition. Teams are needing to be able to course correct faster, hold more of an experimental mindset. Teams are needing to be able to, pardon me, stitch the work together across the organization.
Hmm.
It's not enough to run finance over here, HR over here, IT over here, product engineering over here. It all needs to be integrated. And so processes and norms and operating practices need to be in place. But actually, the work that we also really emphasize and we also do with teams is to slow down and understand each other,
Hmm.
get to know each other, learn how we think, learn what we're trying to bring to the table, learn what it takes to think with others and to facilitate one another to get to said outcome, product going out the door, whatever that might mean. And as much as we can optimize and as much as we can have that be efficient and integrative, the work to have that happen is deeply human. And this notion of both can be true, I think is really important right now. And if I zoom out and we pull forward the notion of, the brittle and highly anxious state that we are in this moment, leaders need to be able to provide conditions for folks to be human together. You might have an off day. You might have a day where you need to be able to slow your thinking down. You need to be able to say, I got to be able to say that again, team. That wasn't quite clear the first time. And so the work of leadership and the human conditions that were in macro that are showing up in the micro, we've got to be able to create appropriate space for.
Hmm. I hear you talking about, some of the decade old buzzwords now that are
Mm,
in our leadership vocabulary, the spaces for vulnerability, the spaces
mm,
for real talk, the spaces for honesty,
mhm,
um, which is really important. One of the observations I think we have is, and we've been learning together, is that in order to create those spaces as someone who has accountability for that said
Mhm.
leader in
Mhm.
organization. Um, Oftentimes, that individual needs to have done some of their own work, the quotation
Mm.
mark, right? Have done their
Mhm.
own work. Um, when I think about when I think about that, one of the philosophers I go back to is a Danish philosopher from the 19th century, a guy named Søren Kierkegaard. And Kierkegaard spoke about the value of having an inward life, an interior life. And in order to be helpful to anyone else in the world, one benefited from going inwardly with rigorous self honesty.
Mm.
And for him, the start of leadership was being attuned, tuning in, attentive to, having attention on one's own um, honest confrontation with who you are, what you believe, what you value. And I find that in our work, um, the leaders who take the quiet pulse check in the
Mhm.
morning, the the moment to journal, the moment to actually be still with some of those more challenging questions, because it's hard work to even sit with those questions. They're the ones who have this deeper reservoir from which they can actually pull from to hold the spaces to some of the possibly contentious moments that you're talking about when it is hard, right? To hold attention or to be vulnerable, or to ask for time, or to lean into something that is hard. Um, and so, like, I mean, I think it'd be fun to just talk for a minute about what we know about those practices that allow for attention making in a thoughtful way. I mean, I
Mhm.
just I just mentioned a few, right? Like take a pause, take out your journal,
Mhm.
ask yourself when you strip away the noise,
Mhm.
whatever that noise is for you, the things that don't allow you to access and hear your own voice. When you strip that away, what is it that you truly stand for? Who is it that you want to stand with? What do you value most about what it is to be human?
Mhm.
Um, and then the bigger work, the next phase is when you say those things honestly and with self honesty, does your life align to that? And it poses questions around congruency. And then this lovely, what it is to be human, uh, uh, gift, the gift of agency shows up. Now you get to choose. If you've said these things honestly to yourself with a heart of compassionate gentleness, right? True self rigor, and the life is aligned or could be differently aligned, what will you choose by way of response?
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that is not only leadership, en route to true authenticity and therefore your best self excellence, right?
Mhm.
But it's also the greatest joy
Mhm.
of of uh of going deep in one's life, but also squeezing the beauty out of one's life, right?
Mhm.
Who am I
Mhm.
really? What is it about my life that is living in line with that? And then what are the choices that I will make? To be human is to exercise uh, at the most simple level of agency, that process.
Mhm. Yeah, and you know me, tactically,
Yeah.
we show up and do that work with our clients, and it can look like, when you're starting a transformation journey and you've put together a team
Hmm.
and individuals take a moment to ask themselves those questions and relate that or flip that into, therefore, what do I need as part of my team norms or as part of my team operating practices to be able to bring my best self, to be able to operate in my best way, to be able to stay congruent with what I stand for? So we also flip from the I to the we,
Hmm.
and even just the practice of allowing individually someone to slow down and do that work, and then share that in the context of then constructing the we, norms, practices, ways we're going to work together. It provides language, opportunity,
Mhm.
a shared commitment, and something to come back to as the work evolves and as the team evolves.
I just want to go back to something that we said at the beginning of the conversation, that part of the delight and an oddity of what it is to be human is that we are deeply complex. There's nothing simple about us. And
Mhm.
so it is wonderfully strange, and we lean into it. Um, I really like the frame of thinking about our complexity through the lens of having multiple intelligences.
Mm.
That when we are human and we are leaders, we're pulling on a diverse set of intelligences we have. Break that down. That includes, back to head, heart, hands, that includes our emotional intelligences, our ability to be with others, read the room in terms of the emotions and feelings that may be present. It includes our sense of social intelligence, right? To be in community. And you know, I've been hearing the language of like vibing lately, but like you vibe the energy that's there, and what people are intuiting together, and the movement and the pulse of the space together. There's the kinesthetic intelligence, like what it is to be in our bodies, right? That physical and somatic awareness that we have. Definitely, there are pieces around our existential intelligences, the amazing and incredible reality that we are able to ask questions about meaning and purpose, and ask the questions about why, that are both beyond ourselves and like deeply within ourselves, is kind of fantastic. And then the list goes on. There's spiritual intelligences, our aesthetic intelligences, to be attuned to beauty, and uh, beauty and form and structure in those ways. All really lovely. And then, the overall like cognitive intelligences, like that we can think through and problem solve
Mhm.
together, identify something that isn't working, and creatively, with practical and cognitive intelligences, be able to deconstruct that and reconstruct, for ourselves and with others, in with various disciplines, and also within the collective. um, and I think those intelligences are a helpful frame when we think about what it is to be a leader doing human work,
Mhm.
because the leaders, with all of that going on within themselves
Mhm.
and within those that they're collaborating with, are
Mhm.
able to focus the kind of intelligences that we need to pull forward
Mhm.
in a
Mhm.
moment, our creative
Mhm.
intelligences and more. You know,
Mhm.
you do such a good job, Megan, of working with leaders and seeing how they activate, that cognitive and practical intelligences around problem solving.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Yeah, say a little bit about that, because I see you in action all the time, and it's brilliant to watch when you're able
Mhm.
to have leaders see a problem, deconstruct it, reconstruct it.
Yeah, I think it is truly both a foundational and quite a strategic skill set of a leader to be able to, individually understand truly what's the problem here, what am I trying to solve for, and then be able to bring a team in and have a conversation and allow a team the same opportunity. And I think that has always been true. And yet, in some ways, in this moment, um, with the onslaught of AI, with the onslaught of just the amount of data we have available to us, there are so many ways you could go. That
Mhm,
skill set of being able to slow down, look at something through multiple lenses, through multiple intelligences, through multiple perspectives as a team, and help others, see around the table through those lenses. So important. And then be able to facilitate the team in selecting,
mhm.
okay, where are we going to focus first? And how might we take a first step? back to this notion of being able to hold, both a long-term view and the here and now. The act of being able to help a team understand, the depth of the problem at hand or the depth of the opportunity at hand, and then feel alignment and agency around, therefore, here's how we're going to start to tackle it. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
Hmm.
That skill, that ability, I think is critical for leaders. And we've seen and we support leaders try that on. And for sure, there's like a tactical, strategic skill set to being able to do that. And then there's quite an artistry in being able to draw on various voices, various intelligences of the team and help the team unpack a problem through those intelligences. And the richness that you get out of that, I think really allows a team to rally around how might we. It
Yeah.
looks like not closing a conversation off too quickly, holding divergence, a little
Hmm.
longer,
Hmm.
ensuring that someone who hasn't had an opportunity to say something does get their voice in. Designing meetings, designing conversations, knowing where you're at against a sense of convergence and divergent problem solving. It ensures that, you've paid attention to this person thinks in this way. This person might need a bit more time. This person tends to say the first thing that comes to their head, and you need to slow their thinking down. So as we
Hmm.
were previously talking about, it also means you've got to be paying attention to how someone shows up, what their natural biases are, and how you're trying to facilitate individually their thinking, collectively their thinking, and the spirit that all perspectives, all intelligences are required in order to get to the richness of problems and the depth or richness of solutions available to us. I mean, if I keep riffing, I think ultimately that becomes the source of great high performing teams.
Hmm. Yeah,
The
I like what you're
ingredients.
framing. I like what you're framing a lot. There's we started with talking about like leadership as like the ability to guide, the state of
Mhm,
guiding others.
mhm.
Um,
Yep.
but I hear what you're saying. It's just a reminder that the paradigm shift is so real from guiding others. If you just hold that simple frame, one might think, oh, you guide, you tell,
Mhm,
we're going here. That could be one posture,
mhm,
right? You're traveling through Italy and someone has the umbrella up and you're on a tour. It's like the guy, we're going here. But I hear in you the beauty and power and the perspective that leadership in the day to day, the
mm,
doing of the work, the getting through it,
mhm,
the the unpacking of the problem stack and trying to get to a new space. It 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 requires not only attention to the humans who are in the room, but this facilitation craft that you're
mhm,
pointing to, this
mhm,
facilitation craft of being able
mhm,
to draw others into the collaborative and collective work of
mhm, mhm,
thinking together, noticing
mhm,
together, problem
mhm,
solving together, discerning together, that
mhm,
strategic bet of where we need to
mhm,
go and what we need
mhm,
to put our
mhm,
efforts toward in a thoughtful way.
mhm,
Yeah, it's
mhm,
a lot happens between guiding and being human for doing a thing together, like all those points
mhm,
that you just named. One
mhm.
might think that leadership as a human act, therefore, is exhausting. It's so
Can be.
much. It's so much. I mean, just a beat of empathy for what it takes,
Oh.
right? The
Mhm,
complexity of all of that.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and even as I say that, I can't help but smile because I also think that that is some of the joy in the work. This
mhm,
is not a profession for the faint of heart.
mhm,
If leadership is a profession and a
mhm,
vocation, a calling that one says yes to,
Mhm.
at the depth of
Mhm.
themselves, and in yes to the, the strategic mandate they're trying to create.
Mhm.
Whether it's a movement, or it's a product based company, or
Mhm.
it's an issue that they're trying to shift tomorrow in a different way. Um, uh, there is there's a I think that there's a loveliness in being human and tapping into one's joy around giving your yes to
Mhm.
the work of being human and being a leader. Yeah, and the power of reminding ourselves that we have choice in how we do it with
Mhm.
others.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a thoughtful
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. I think the other myth that I think the other myth here, you reminded me of, like, all the words, all the frames and words that have come before us that we're building upon.
Hmm.
I think the other myth is that leading in a human way, um, allowing for voices at the table, allowing for rigorous conversation, allowing for divergence and convergence somehow means we won't reach high performance.
Mm.
I think that's sort of in the world of it right now.
You mean like
We
we don't have
tried.
time for it?
We don't
We
have
don't.
time for it. We
Uh huh.
tried that.
Hmm.
The world of DE and I, the world of vulnerability. And like everything, pendulums do swing.
Hmm.
But I'm the first one to say all of this comes with a high sense of performance, a high sense of outcome. And I think what's critical to the work of leadership and the work of high performing teams and organizations, um, is clarity on accountability
Okay,
and
let's unpack
clarity
that. Say more.
clarity on, you know, accountability for understanding what I'm here to do, how I contribute, being able to your point, practice my own sense of interior work around what do I need and therefore what do I need from the team and vice versa. What am
Hmm.
I going to give and contribute to someone else so that they can,
Hmm.
bring their best self?
Hmm.
But that I'm accountable for what's being asked of me. I think I think some of the help me with language here,
Hmm.
looseness of the world or some of the downside of the words around vulnerability, whole human self, all of that came into the workforce is that somehow that got mixed with I don't need to be accountable.
Hmm.
And yet I think the work of being human is to be accountable to oneself and accountable to what you're giving your yes to, whether
Hmm.
that's getting this product out the door as part of this team, whether that's, showing up in a social movement and being able to, steward and support in a particular way. Um, all of that requires high accountability. I think to be human is to also be highly curious and highly accountable for what you're giving your yes to.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I hear in that. I hear in that. I hear in that a posture of intentionality.
Mm, yeah, well
Right.
said.
Yeah, being
Mhm,
intentional, just aggregating what you're saying, but like, yeah, being intentional about, yeah, what we give our yes to. And then to be, with our own sense of like moral reasoning to know that we stand by that yes,
mhm,
right? We stand by that yes.
mhm,
Because accountability goes both ways, as you intimated there. Like it's accountable to self, but accountable to others. Like others can rely on the fact that I've given my yes to this. And I am
mhm,
going to give my best to this, and I am going to learn along the way, and I'm going to fail, and I'm going to get back up again.
mhm,
And I'm going to do that with a sense of respect and kindness, and also zeal for being better for what
mhm,
what comes next. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to adapt
mhm,
and bring forward the best,
mhm,
and leave behind what wasn't helpful. So yeah,
mhm,
this living a life with
mhm,
intention and attention is what we're talking about today, I guess. Hey,
mhm, mhm,
um,
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. What are you giving your yes to and to stand by that?
Yeah, and to your point, that is the work that we end up doing with our clients.
Mhm. Mm.
And I really like what you said around we're talking about attention.
Mhm.
You and I spend lots of time thinking about that and helping our clients activate that. What is attention? Why is it important?
Hmm. Yeah. In a world that I think people are really connected to just how
Mhm,
noisy it is, attention, again, going back to like maybe like the root of the word as a starting place, uh, is this posture of like that toward which you stretch. It's actually like the bedrock of where the word comes from. So I think of attention, the leadership space, as um, the things that we stretch toward and lend our most human capabilities. The conscious, intentional act of focusing and giving our most essential human capabilities. And so that happens in the very human realm of some of those social values, the exchange of those, compassion, empathy, heart-centered spaces, the power of listening to someone deeply,
mhm,
right? Like giving attention in that way. And then it
mhm,
also is about the other intelligences and capabilities that we spoke about. And how do we stretch into those for the sake of something? This is where it all wraps together, for the sake of what we've given our yes to.
mhm,
There's one beautiful and precious life, and we've said we are going to give it to this kind of work. We're going to
mhm,
give it to this kind of purpose and mission. We're going to give it to this true cause, right?
mhm,
It shows up when you're parenting. It shows up in your chosen profession. It shows up in the areas that you are building community in a volunteer space. Um, and yeah, attention is the intentional act of saying, here's what I'm going to, from the wellspring of who I am and what I have to bring, what I'm going to, what I'm going to lend that toward. Yeah. So it is um, one of the rarest gifts and most generous gifts that we have to give to another. And there I'm actually quoting a song. Those aren't my words. I'm quoting a French philosopher, Simone Weil, someone who I love. And she was a philosopher and a mystic that lived in the 20th century. And she has this lovely quote where she says, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity to another.
mhm,
Isn't that
mhm,
incredible? Isn't that incredible?
mhm, mhm,
And your point, that doesn't take extra time that pulls back from performance or effectiveness or productivity, right?
mhm,
That uh, is it's a necessary input in order to allow the humans that you are working in relationship with to be their best selves.
mhm,
When one feels heard, when one is invited to use their smarts and use their heart and use their um, the fullness of their humanity in the work that they
mhm,
do. My
mhm,
goodness, there is depth and richness there that is that we should be delighted to tap into.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, mhm. Okay, I'd love to leave everyone with, call it some tips and some tricks and some practices to think about. You know, we're sitting here, it's spring. Perhaps folks have Q1 behind them. Budgets are set. Plans are in place.
Hmm.
Teams are in motion. If someone's listening to this and they are thinking forward the next 3 quarters or the remainder of your year, what's your guidance, Ayana, for how someone might sharpen, be intentional about applying leadership is human work
Yeah.
If you're speaking to, a leader that's got a team that they're running, a significant mandate that they're holding, the pressure of delivery, what's your guidance for how they might apply these concepts into their day to day?
Hmm. Well, if I take the thread of our conversation and has like an inward, outward, forward momentum,
Mhm.
I might start with, at the end of this quarter, start with your own leadership as human audit.
Mm.
So to think back over the past 12 weeks, open your Outlook calendar. What meetings did you have, right? What were the tables that you were at? And the audit of what worked well there. Which of your
Mhm.
intelligence did you lean into? What did attention feel like? What got in the way? What made it what made it successful? Um, and so I think our lives are already there waiting for us day after day, the gift of them, to be mined for insight and wisdom and our own sense of patterning. Where were the default patterns in how you stood up those conversations, prepared for them, walked into them, right? Thought about the humans who would be at the table, our human work in getting ready for the human work with others, right?
Mhm.
So a
Mhm.
little bit of an audit, and then the lovely questions of what to keep,
Mhm.
what to let go, and if there were gaps, what's the one thing that you may want to try
Mhm.
for the next quarter that
Mhm.
would tap into um, something that you want to practice, or an individual that you really want to help unlock? Um, yeah, I would start with an audit. And then the second thing I kind of wonder about is how do you make visible that good internal or quiet work? So,
Mm.
what about the findings of that might you want to share with your core team?
Mhm.
A perspective sharing of where you were and what you want to be accountable to with them about
Mhm.
practicing moving forward into the next quarter.
Mhm.
That's vulnerability.
Mhm.
That's, leadership by example and
Mhm.
influence. That's creating space, for others, and invitational space for others to do similar work and to join
Mhm.
you as you join them, in
Mhm.
the iteration of like, this is a journey. Us being in leadership together, humans together doing a thing. Let's iterate. Let's look back to look forward. Um, so I think of those as quite practical things to do, because they awaken one's own insight, and it can disrupt unhealthy patterns that you may have been in and allow you to step into the choosing of what you want to become next and practice next as a leader and with others.
Mhm.
Yeah. What do you think of
Amazing.
that?
It's great.
It's kind of fun.
Mhm.
I think it's fun. Like, I think that work is, it's like cleaning house after, cleaning your cupboards or your pantry after like 12 weeks and,
Mhm.
your kitchen's messy. It's like, great, let me just organize this. What's
Mhm.
actually in here? What,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
what's been helpful? What I need to leave
Mhm.
behind?
I'm reminded of the podcast with Karen Grieve Young,
Hmm.
where her insight was, um, it takes time,
Hmm.
intentional time with oneself, um, to be a leader and to carve that time out because it's your accountability. The interior work, the audit work, the being intentional about what patterns do you need to disrupt to change. That is also your work.
Hmm.
And so, how do you start to carve out the time necessary, to do the human work of leadership with
Yeah.
yourself and with others?
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I like flipping it on its head just a little bit there, change the preposition from carve out to like, how do you carve it into the shape of your living?
Hmm.
Right? Like, actually have it be part of the intrinsic form of how you operate and walk your days. Right? That's when something moves from an imposed upon uh, uh, practice or discipline and becomes integrated into who
Mhm.
you are. It's the form. It's the form. Habit making. is that way? I can make it a habit, you carve it into your days. Yeah. Well, these insights, we have 6 of them that we are exploring in this behind the scenes. We have been in this field work for 10 years now, and it's been fantastic, and we're pulling on a lot of the trends and practices and wisdom of folks who we've been in conversation with, clients and podcast guests and more, and we've distilled it down to these 6 things for the top of 2026. So this is a time for exploration and really like demonstrating in practice that you don't get better at your leadership by consuming hashtags. You actually get better at your leadership by opening the conversation and exploring and going inside of it, right? Like talking
Mhm,
about what makes it hard, what
mhm,
makes it beautiful, what you're trying to accomplish, and who you're trying to become in your identity as a
mhm,
leader. So
mhm,
I'm really thankful for you, Megan, for the platform of STRAAD, for those who are listening. The work that we do is tactical and practical and
mhm,
moves individuals and moves teams. So we're always happy to have a conversation with any and all who want to talk about strategy and culture and their own inward leadership, and what it takes to continue to develop and grow in
mhm,
one's profession and art as a leader.
mhm,
These conversations are here on YouTube.
mhm, mhm,
They're also, we're having great conversation on LinkedIn and Instagram. And so all our viewers can find us there as well.
mhm. Hashtags.
The life of
Okay.
platforms.
Thank you all. Enjoy.